The trading station floated in the darkness of space like a small city made of metal and glass. Helios 7 was a place where aliens from different worlds came to trade, talk, and do business. Ships of all sizes docked at its ports every day. Some were small, like the human vessel called New Dawn. Others were massive warships that made the station look tiny. Captain Dae-hyun stood near the docking bay window and watched the ships come and go. He was a tall man with dark hair and tired eyes. He had been flying cargo ships for 10 years now, ever since humanity joined the galactic community. It was good work, mostly peaceful, and it let him travel the stars with his sister. Yuna walked up beside him carrying a data pad. She was younger than Dae-hyun by 3 years, with a bright smile that made everyone feel welcome. She worked as the ship's communication officer, speaking 6 different alien languages fluently. "The cargo is loaded," she said. "We can leave in 2 hours. Jiho is just finishing the engine checks." Dae-hyun nodded. Jiho was his best friend since childhood, a brilliant engineer who could fix anything. The 3 of them had been flying together for 5 years. They were more than a crew. They were family. "Good," Dae-hyun said. "The sooner we leave, the better. I don't like how crowded this station is getting." Yuna looked out the window. A massive Vorkan warship was docking at the main port. The Vorkans were one of the most powerful species in the galaxy. They had conquered many worlds and controlled hundreds of star systems. Their ships were covered in weapons and their soldiers wore heavy armor. "They're just here for supplies," Yuna said softly. "We'll be gone before they even notice us." But she was wrong. An hour later, Yuna was walking through the station's main plaza. She needed to pick up some supplies before they left. The plaza was busy with aliens of all kinds. Some had scales, some had fur, and some looked almost human. Yuna had learned to feel comfortable around all of them. She was paying for some food packets when she heard loud voices behind her. She turned and saw a group of Vorkan soldiers pushing through the crowd. They were big creatures, almost 8 feet tall, with thick gray skin and small black eyes. At the front was an officer with gold markings on his armor. An admiral, Yuna realized. The Vorkans were shoving smaller aliens out of their way. One small trader fell to the ground and the Vorkans just laughed. Yuna felt anger rise in her chest, but she stayed calm. She had been trained in diplomatic protocols. She knew how to handle difficult situations. She stepped forward and spoke in the Vorkan language. "Excuse me, Admiral. Perhaps you could show more respect to the other traders here. This is a neutral station." The plaza went quiet. Everyone stopped and stared. The Vorkan admiral turned slowly and looked down at Yuna. His eyes were cold and empty. "A human," he said in a deep voice. "You dare speak to me?" "I meant no disrespect," Yuna said, keeping her voice steady. "I only ask that you follow station protocols. We are all equal here." The admiral stepped closer. His breath smelled like metal. "Equal?" he said. "Humans have been in space for 50 years. My people have ruled the stars for 5,000. You are not equal to us. You are insects." Yuna took a step back, but she kept her head high. "We may be new, but we deserve respect. All species do." The admiral's face twisted with rage. In one quick movement, he pulled out a plasma pistol from his belt. "This is what I think of human respect," he said. The shot hit Yuna in the chest. The bright blue energy burned through her instantly. She fell to the ground without a sound. For a moment, nobody moved. Everyone in the plaza stood frozen in shock. Then people started screaming and running. Dae-hyun heard the commotion from 3 corridors away. He started running, pushing past aliens and humans alike. His heart pounded in his chest. Something was wrong. He could feel it. When he reached the plaza, he saw the crowd gathered in a circle. He pushed through them and stopped. His breath caught in his throat. Yuna lay on the ground, her eyes open but seeing nothing. Her chest was burned and blackened. Dae-hyun dropped to his knees beside her and grabbed her hand. It was still warm. "No," he whispered. No. Jiho arrived seconds later. He saw Dae-hyun holding Yuna and his face went pale. "What happened?" he asked, his voice shaking. An alien trader nearby spoke up. "The Vorkan admiral shot her. She tried to stop them from pushing people around. She was just being polite." Dae-hyun looked up and saw the Vorkan soldiers still standing there. The admiral was cleaning his pistol, completely calm. He looked at Dae-hyun and smiled. "Your female did not know her place," the admiral said. "Consider this a lesson." Dae-hyun felt something break inside him. He stood up and started walking toward the admiral. Jiho grabbed his arm. "Don't," Jiho said urgently. "They'll kill you too." Station security arrived, small robots and alien guards. They formed a barrier between Daehyun and the Vorkans. No violence on the station, one guard said. Everyone must remain calm. He murdered my sister, Daehyun shouted. The matter will be investigated, the guard said without emotion. The Vorkan admiral laughed. There is nothing to investigate. She was disrespectful. I corrected her. This is Vorkan law. This isn't Vorkan space, Daehyun yelled. But it didn't matter. The security guards escorted the Vorkans back to their ship. Other species watched but did nothing. The Vorkan Empire was too powerful. Nobody wanted to make them angry. Jiho pulled out a small recording device from his pocket. He had filmed everything from the moment he arrived. We have evidence, he said quietly. We'll send this to Earth, they'll do something. Daehyun knelt back down beside his sister's body. He closed her eyes gently and held her hand. Tears didn't come. Instead, he felt cold inside. Ice cold. They'll pay for this, he whispered. I promise you, Yuna, they will pay. Jiho stood beside him and nodded. Around them, the station slowly returned to normal. Aliens went back to their trading and talking. Within an hour, it was like nothing had happened, but something had happened. Something that would change the galaxy forever. The humans had learned an important lesson that day. They had learned that in this vast universe, their lives meant nothing to the powerful species. They were too new, too weak, too small to matter. The galaxy would soon learn a lesson too. They would learn that humanity had something the ancient species had forgotten. They remembered their dead. They valued every single life, and they never, ever forgave murder. The Vorkan warship left the station 2 hours later, heading back to their space. Admiral Threxnell celebrated with his officers, proud of putting a human in her place. He had no idea what was coming. None of them did. The video reached Earth in 6 hours. It traveled through quantum communication networks, bouncing from relay station to relay station until it arrived at the Global Communications Center in Geneva. The technician who received it watched it once, then immediately sent it to the highest levels of government. Within 12 hours, every leader on Earth had seen the footage. They watched Yuna speak politely in perfect Vorkan language. They watched her try to defend the weak. They watched the Admiral pull his weapon and fire without hesitation. They watched her fall. The Galactic Council expected humanity to respond quickly. Maybe they would send an angry message. Maybe they would demand an apology or request a meeting. Maybe they would file a formal complaint that the Council would ignore, like they ignored complaints from other weak species. But humanity said nothing. President Somin sat in her office in Seoul, looking at the video for the 20th time. She was a small woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. She had survived 3 wars on Earth and helped bring peace to her planet. She had seen death before, but this was different. This was murder, broadcast for the whole galaxy to see. Her phone rang. It was the American president. Then the European chancellor. Then the African Union chairman. One by one, every major leader on Earth called her. They all said the same thing. This cannot stand, I agree, Sumin said to each of them. Call an emergency meeting. Every nation. Tomorrow. The next day, representatives from every country on Earth gathered in New York. It was the first time in 30 years that the entire Global Unity Council had met in person. They had stopped fighting each other when aliens arrived and showed them how small Earth really was, but they had never truly been united until now. The meeting lasted 18 hours. There were no arguments. No debates about politics or borders or old grudges. Everyone agreed on one simple fact. A human had been murdered in cold blood and the killer walked free. If they did nothing, it would happen again. At the end of the meeting, President Somin stood and addressed the council. We have a choice, she said. We can file a complaint that nobody will read. We can ask for justice that nobody will give us. We can accept that we are small and weak and our lives don't matter. Or we can show the galaxy who we really are. What do you propose? The Chinese premier asked. War, Somin said simply. Total war. Not for territory or resources. War for justice. War to show the galaxy that human life has value. War to make sure this never happens again. The vote was unanimous. The next day, every human ambassador in alien space received the same order. Come home. Every human merchant ship was recalled. Every research station was abandoned. Every diplomatic mission was closed, the galaxy noticed. Of course they noticed. But they didn't understand. The Zentari were a peaceful species who had tried to befriend humanity. Their ambassador sent urgent messages to Earth begging for a meeting. The messages went unanswered. The Vorkan Empire laughed. Their news networks mocked the humans for running away like cowards. Admiral Threxnall was promoted to fleet commander. They threw a parade in his honor. 3 weeks passed. The silence from Earth grew louder. On Earth, something remarkable was happening. Every weapons factory went to full production. Every shipyard started building new vessels. Every research laboratory unlocked projects that had been sealed away in classified files. Commander Taeyang walked through the orbital shipyard above Earth, watching thousands of workers build the fleet. He was a veteran of the resource wars, the last great conflict on Earth before the aliens came. He was old now, his hair white and his hands scarred. But his eyes were still sharp. How many? He asked the shipyard director. 500 warships, the director replied. We're building them with every technology we've learned from the aliens, but better, faster, stronger, more deadly. How long? They'll all be ready in 2 months. Taeyang nodded. Good. We need every advantage we can get. The Vorkans have been fighting in space for thousands of years. We've been out here for 50. But we have something they don't, the director said. What's that? We're angry. In a laboratory deep underground, scientist Heian worked on weapons that should never have been built. She was young for her position, only 35, but brilliant. She had designed Earth's first quantum reactor and had won 3 global science awards. Now she was building antimatter bombs. Are you sure about this? Her assistant asked nervously. These weapons could destroy entire planets. We won't use them on planets, Heian said, adjusting a complex equation on her screen. We'll use them on ships. The Vorkan warships have shields that can stop normal weapons. These will go right through. But the radiation, the damage... They killed Yuna because they thought we were weak, Heiyun interrupted. They thought we would accept it. They were wrong. Her assistant was quiet for a moment. Did you know her? She was my cousin, Heiyun said softly. Then her voice became hard again. Finish the calibrations. We have work to do. Across the galaxy, the other species debated what humanity's silence meant. The Galactic Council met 3 times to discuss it. Some species thought humans were afraid. Others thought they were planning something. The Zentari ambassador, a kind creature named Tillix, addressed the council. I have studied human history, she said. They are not a peaceful species by nature. They have fought terrible wars on their own planet. When they are silent, it means they are preparing. Preparing for what? The council chairman asked. They barely have a fleet. The Vorkan Empire has thousands of warships. What can humanity possibly do? I don't know, Tillix said. But I suggest we try harder to contact them. I suggest we offer to mediate. I suggest we convince the Vorkans to surrender Admiral Threxnall for trial. The Vorkan representative, a large warrior named Krell, laughed loudly. Surrender one of our heroes? For killing a human female who disrespected him? Never. If the humans want him, let them come and try to take him. The council took no action. They decided to wait and see what humanity would do. They didn't have to wait long. On Earth, the fleet was nearly ready. 500 warships, each one crewed by volunteers. Thousands of humans had signed up to join the military when the call went out. Young and old, men and women, people from every country. They all wanted the same thing. Justice Captain Daehyun, now promoted to admiral, stood on the bridge of the flagship. It was the largest warship Earth had ever built, and they had named it Yuna's Justice. The name was painted on the hull in letters 20 feet tall. Jiho walked onto the bridge and stood beside him. All ships report ready, he said. We can leave whenever you give the order. Daehyun looked out at the fleet floating in space around Earth. 500 ships. 10,000 crew members, all of them ready to fly into danger for one simple reason, because Yuna's life mattered. Send a message to the Galactic Council, Daehyun said. Tell them our demands. What should I say? Tell them we want Admiral Threxnall surrendered to stand trial for murder. Tell them if the Vorkan Empire refuses, we will come and take him ourselves. Tell them we will not stop until justice is served. Jiho nodded and went to send the message. President Soman appeared on the bridge view screen from Earth. Admiral, she said, the whole world is watching. No pressure, but you're carrying the hopes of 8 billion people. Daehyun smiled grimly. I'm just carrying the memory of one person. My sister, that's enough. Then go, Soman said, and come back victorious. The fleet began to move, 500 ships accelerating away from Earth. They headed toward Vorkan space, toward war, toward the unknown. Behind them, Earth watched and waited. In front of them, the galaxy was about to learn a hard lesson. Never underestimate humanity, and never ever take one of their own. The human fleet traveled through space for 3 weeks before they reached Vorkan territory. During that time, the galaxy watched and waited. News networks across hundreds of worlds showed the human ships moving steadily toward what everyone thought would be their destruction. The Vorkan Empire had been dominant for 5,000 years. They had the largest military in the galaxy, with over 10,000 warships. They had crushed rebellions, conquered worlds, and never lost a major war. 500 human ships seemed like nothing, but Admiral Daehyun wasn't heading to the Vorkan homeworld. He had studied their empire carefully. The Vorkans ruled over 12 conquered worlds, planets where they had enslaved other species and taken their resources. These worlds had small Vorkan military bases but were far from the main fleet. "We're not here to conquer," Daehyun told his officers on the first day. "We're here to liberate. Every world the Vorkans hold by force we will free. We'll show the galaxy what we fight for." The first target was a planet called Raxus. The Vorkans had invaded it 50 years ago and forced the native Raxi people to work in mining operations. 3 million Raxi lived under Vorkan occupation, and 2,000 Vorkan soldiers controlled them. When the human fleet appeared in orbit, the Vorkan commander sent a confused message. "Why are humans here? This is Vorkan territory. Leave immediately or be destroyed." Admiral Daehyun responded simply, "We're here to free the Raxi people. Surrender your forces or we will remove them." The Vorkan commander laughed and closed the communication. 20 minutes later, Commander Hyun led a strike force down to the planet's surface. He was a special forces officer, trained in rapid assault tactics. His team of 500 soldiers hit 3 Vorkan bases simultaneously. The Vorkans were bigger and stronger than humans. But humans fought differently. They used speed, coordination, and tactics that the Vorkans had never seen before. They hacked into Vorkan communications and turned their own security systems against them. They used drones that flew in swarms, overwhelming the enemy defenses. The battle lasted 4 hours. When it was over, every Vorkan soldier on Raxus was either captured or dead. Not a single Raxi civilian was hurt. The Raxi people came out of their homes cautiously, expecting new conquerors. Instead, Commander Hyun addressed them through a translator. "We are humans from Earth. We're not here to rule you. We're here to free you. The Vorkan occupation is over. Your world is yours again." The Raxi leader, an old female named Kessa, approached Hyun carefully. "Why?" she asked. "Why would you do this? What do you want from us?" "We want justice," Hyun said. "The Vorkans killed one of our people. We're showing the galaxy that every life matters, not just human lives. Yours too." Kessa was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "The Vorkans have been here for 50 years. Nobody came to help us. Nobody cared. We care now," Hyun said. "You have a choice. You can stay here and rebuild your world in peace, or you can join us and help free others." 2 days later, 300 Raxi warriors joined the human fleet. They knew the Vorkan systems and tactics. They wanted revenge. News of Raxus spread across the galaxy quickly. The Galactic Council met in emergency session. The human ambassador Nari appeared via hologram for the first time in 2 months. She was a young woman with cold eyes and a firm voice. "The Galactic Council has done nothing while the Vorkan Empire conquered and enslaved dozens of species. You watched as they murdered my people and did nothing, so we will do something. We will free every world they hold, and we will take Admiral Threxnall to face justice." The Vorkan representative stood up angrily. "You declare war on the entire Vorkan Empire? You have 500 ships. We have 10,000? This is suicide." "Then come and stop us," Nari said simply. The hologram disappeared. The Vorkan Empire sent the 3rd Fleet to deal with the humans. 300 warships, battle-tested and powerful. They had crushed the Bendari Rebellion 10 years ago and destroyed the Keltor resistance movement. The fleet commander was a veteran warrior named Vexel. "These humans think they're clever," Vexel told his officers. "They attack weak targets and free slaves. But now they face real Vorkan power. We will crush them and send a message to the galaxy. Nobody challenges the Empire." The 2 fleets met near a planet called Korthax. The human fleet had freed 2 more worlds by then, and their forces had grown to 700 ships with allied vessels joining them. But the Vorkan Third Fleet was still powerful and experienced. Captain Yunho commanded one of the human destroyers called Retribution. He had been a fighter pilot in Earth's Air Force before joining the Space Navy. He was calm under pressure and deadly in combat. When the battle began, the Vorkans attacked in their traditional formation, a massive wall of ships firing together. It had won them hundreds of battles over thousands of years, but the humans didn't fight like anyone the Vorkans had faced before. The human ships scattered, moving in unpredictable patterns. Small fighter craft launched in swarms, thousands of them, piloted by artificial intelligence that learned and adapted in real time. The fighters dodged Vorkan weapons and struck at weak points in their shields. Then came the antimatter missiles. Scientist Heian had designed them to bypass normal shield technology. When they hit a Vorkan ship, they didn't just damage it. They vaporized it. 20 Vorkan warships disappeared in the first 10 minutes of battle. "What is this?" Vexel shouted on his command deck. "What weapons are these?" His tactical officer worked frantically. "They're using antimatter warheads, Commander. Our shields can't stop them." "Then increase power to shields." "It doesn't matter. The weapons don't interact with the shield frequency. They pass right through." Captain Yunho watched the battle from his bridge. The Vorkan formation was breaking apart, ships trying to dodge missiles they couldn't defend against. Human vessels pressed the attack, coordinating perfectly. "Target their flagship," Yunho ordered. "Take out their command structure." 6 antimatter missiles streaked toward Vexel's ship. 5 were shot down by defensive weapons. 1 got through. The Vorkan flagship exploded in a ball of light and energy. 3,000 Vorkan warriors died instantly. The battle turned into a rout. Vorkan ships tried to retreat, but human forces had surrounded them. They used cyber weapons to disable enemy engines, and hacker teams shut down entire ships from the inside. When the fighting stopped 4 hours later, the Vorkan Third Fleet was destroyed. 300 ships reduced to wreckage. 8 human vessels were lost, mostly to kamikaze attacks by desperate Vorkan captains. The galaxy watched the battle footage in shock. The impossible had happened. Humans had defeated a major Vorkan fleet. On the flagship Yuna's Justice, Admiral Daehyun received reports of the victory. He felt no joy, only grim satisfaction. "Send a message on all frequencies," he told his communications officer. "Broadcast it to every world in the galaxy." The message was simple. "We are humanity. We do not seek conquest or territory. We seek one person, Admiral Threxnall, the murderer of Yuna Park. The Vorkan Empire can surrender him for trial, or we will continue to dismantle their military until we take him ourselves. Every day you delay, we come one system closer to your homeworld. Choose wisely." The Zentari ambassador Tillix watched the message from the Galactic Council chambers. She turned to the other representatives. "I told you," she said quietly. "Humans are not peaceful. They are just, but when justice is denied, they become something else, something terrifying." The Vorkan representative said nothing. For the first time in 5,000 years, his species faced real defeat. And across the galaxy, other species began to choose sides. The destruction of the Vorkan Third Fleet changed everything. For 5,000 years, the Vorkan Empire had seemed invincible. Now they had lost 300 warships to a species that had been in space for only 50 years. The galaxy reacted with shock, fear, and in some cases, hope. The Galactic Council met every day now. Some species condemned the humans as warmongers who had overreacted to a single death. Others quietly supported them, remembering their own people who had been killed by Vorkan aggression over the centuries. The council was fracturing, unable to agree on anything. The Zentari ambassador Tillix stood before the council and made a speech that would be remembered for generations. "For too long, we have accepted that some species are more important than others. We have watched the strong crush the weak and called it peace. The humans have shown us something different. They have shown us that every life has value. One human died and her entire species went to war for justice. When was the last time this council did that for any species?" The chamber fell silent. No one had an answer. "I propose that Zentar formally ally with Earth," Tillix continued. "Not because we want war, but because we want a galaxy where justice matters more than power." The Zentari voted to join humanity the next day. They were a peaceful species, but they had a small fleet of defensive ships. It wasn't much, but it was a beginning. Within a week, 5 more species joined what they called the Allied Systems Coalition. The Raxi, who humans had freed from Vorkan occupation, the Bendari, who had lost a rebellion against the Vorkans 10 years ago and still burned for revenge, the Keltor, who had been conquered 50 years ago, and 2 other smaller species who had watched the powerful ignore justice for too long. On Earth, engineer Minji worked around the clock on a new project. She was designing a system that would let human ships and allied ships fight together as one coordinated fleet. It required integrating dozens of different communication systems, weapons platforms, and tactical displays. "It's impossible," her team leader said. "Every species uses different technology. Their computers don't even speak the same language." "Then we teach them," Minji said, typing rapidly on 3 screens at once. "We build translation protocols. We create universal interfaces. We make it work because we have to." She didn't sleep for 3 days. She drank endless cups of coffee and worked until her eyes burned. But she finished it. The Allied Integration Network, she called it. Any ship from any species could plug into it and fight alongside human vessels with perfect coordination. When she tested it with a Zentari cruiser, the Zentari captain sent a message. "This is remarkable. Our ships have never been able to coordinate like this with another species." "That's because nobody tried before," Minji replied. "Welcome to the team." The Allied coalition grew to 23 species within a month. Not all of them sent military ships. Some provided intelligence about Vorkan systems. Others offered supply stations and repair facilities. A few sent medical teams to help wounded soldiers. Every contribution mattered. But the Vorkan Empire was far from defeated. They still had over 9,000 warships, and they were gathering them into a massive fleet. They had never called up their full military strength before. They had never needed to. Now they sent a message to all Vorkan warriors across the Empire. "Return to the homeworld. We face an enemy that threatens our very existence. Every soldier is needed." Admiral Threxnell, the man whose actions had started this war, commanded the Vorkan 7th Fleet. He had been celebrated as a hero after killing Yuna. Now his fleet was being recalled to defend the homeworld. He stood on his command deck, watching the stars stream past as his ships traveled through hyperspace. His second officer approached cautiously. "Admiral, some of the crew are asking questions," the officer said quietly. "They wonder if perhaps we should have surrendered you for trial. The humans only want justice for one death. We have lost thousands." Threxnell turned slowly, his black eyes cold. "Are you suggesting I should surrender?" "No, Admiral. I'm only reporting what others say." "Then tell them this," Threxnell said. "I am Vorkan. We do not surrender to lesser species. The humans will learn their place or they will die. There is no other option." But across Vorkan space, that conversation was happening on many ships. Young Vorkan warriors who had never known defeat were questioning their leaders. Old warriors who had won every battle for thousands of years were confused by an enemy that refused to fight the way enemies were supposed to. Fight Intelligence Officer Jisoo worked from a small ship far behind human lines. She coordinated a network of spies and informants across the galaxy. Some were humans living in alien space. Others were aliens who supported the Allied cause. Many were Vorkans who disagreed with their government's actions. "We've tracked Threxnell to 17 different locations," she reported to Admiral Daehyun. "He's commanding the 7th Fleet, currently heading to the Vorkan homeworld. The Empire is concentrating all its forces there for a final defense." "Good," Daehyun said. "That's exactly what we want. Let them gather their fleet in one place. Admiral, they'll have 10-to-1 numbers advantage. Even with our allied forces, we'll be outnumbered badly." "Numbers aren't everything," Daehyun replied. "We've proven that already. How many Vorkan military leaders have contacted us about possible defection?" 43, Jisoo said. "All junior officers. They're worried about their families and their people. They see this war as pointless and keep encouraging them. The more internal division the Vorkans have, the weaker they become." The Allied coalition fleet, now numbering over 1,000 ships, began its advance toward the Vorkan homeworld. They moved slowly, methodically, freeing occupied worlds along the way. Each liberation took time and care. Humans were determined not to become the monsters they fought against. Dr. Hana led the medical teams that treated wounded soldiers from all species. She was a trauma surgeon from Seoul who had volunteered when the war began. She had operated on humans, Zentari, Raxi, even wounded Vorkan prisoners. "Why do you heal us?" A Vorkan soldier asked her after she saved his life. "We are your enemy." "You're a living being who was hurt," Hana said simply. "That's enough reason to help you." The Vorkan was quiet for a long time. "I thought humans were savage." "That's what our leaders told us." "We can be savage when we need to be," Hana admitted. "But we can also be kind. We choose which one based on the situation." News of human mercy spread through Vorkan ranks. Prisoners were treated well, given medical care, and allowed to contact their families. It was something the Vorkans had never done for their enemies. It made many of them think. The Allied fleet reached the outer rim of the Vorkan core systems. Just 3 more jumps to the homeworld. The Vorkan military was waiting for them. 9,000 warships arranged in defensive positions around their capital planet. Admiral Daehyun stood on the bridge of Yuna's Justice and looked at the tactical display. The odds were terrible, but he had expected that. "Send a message to the Vorkan High Command," he ordered. "One final offer." The message was broadcast across all channels. "We are the Allied Systems Coalition. We do not want to destroy the Vorkan Empire or harm your civilians. We want one thing. Admiral Threxnal must face trial for the murder of Yuna Park. Surrender him and we will withdraw. Refuse and we will take him by force. You have 72 hours to decide." The Vorkan High Command met in emergency session. The chamber was full of military leaders and government officials arguing loudly. Some wanted to fight to the last ship. Others wanted to negotiate. A few quietly suggested giving up Threxnal to save their civilization, but the High Commander, an old warrior named Drexus, made the final decision. "We have never surrendered in 5,000 years. We will not start now. Let the humans come. Let them break themselves against our defenses. Then we will hunt down every one of their worlds and make them pay for this insult." The 72 hours passed with no response from the Vorkan government. Admiral Daehyun had expected that too. "All ships prepare for battle," he ordered. "But remember, we're here for justice, not genocide. Target military vessels only. If they surrender, accept it. If civilians are threatened, protect them." As the Allied fleet prepared to advance, a communication came through from an unexpected source. It was a Vorkan military officer named Kelvar, commander of the 8th Fleet. "Admiral Daehyun," Kelvar said, his voice tired. "Not all Vorkans agree with this war. Many of us see no honor in what Admiral Threxnal did. My fleet will not fight against you." "What are you saying?" Daehyun asked carefully. "I'm saying that if you promise to bring Threxnal to fair trial, and if you promise not to destroy our civilization, then my fleet will help you. We will tell you where he is hidden. We will help you take him." Daehyun was silent for a moment, then nodded. "You have my word. Justice, not revenge. Trial, not execution. And after this is over, we rebuild together." "Then you have an ally inside the Vorkan military," Kelvar said. "Threxnal is on the battle station orbiting our homeworld. I will send you the access codes." The tide was turning. The galaxy was choosing sides. And justice was coming. The battle for the Vorkan homeworld never happened the way anyone expected. When the Allied fleet arrived, they found the Vorkan military split into 2 factions. Commander Kelvar's 8th Fleet, along with 12 other fleet commanders, had declared their support for justice and refused to protect Admiral Threxnal. The remaining Vorkan forces, loyal to the old regime, tried to fight both the humans and their own people. The civil war lasted 3 days. It was bloody and terrible. Vorkan fighting Vorkan in orbit around their own homeworld. But in the end, the reformers won with help from the Allied coalition. Admiral Daehyun kept his word. Human ships protected Vorkan civilians on the planet below. When loyalist forces tried to bomb cities to prevent surrender, human fighters shot down their missiles. When food supplies ran low, human cargo ships brought relief. Commander Kelvar led a strike team to the battle station where Admiral Threxnal had taken command. The fighting was fierce, hand-to-hand in narrow corridors, but Kelvar's forces knew the station layout and had access codes from the inside. Threxnal tried to escape in a small ship, but human fighters surrounded him. He surrendered without firing a shot. When they brought Threxnal before Admiral Daehyun, the Vorkan commander stood tall and defiant. "You think you've won?" he said. "You think this changes anything?" "I would kill that human female again. She was disrespectful." Daehyun looked at him with cold eyes. "You will stand trial. You will face justice, and you will spend the rest of your life knowing that one murder destroyed your entire empire. I am a warrior. I will not be judged by lesser species. Then you'll be judged by your own people, Daehyun said. We're not here for revenge. We're here to prove that justice matters more than power. The Galactic Council met 1 month later in the largest gathering in its history. Every species in the galaxy sent representatives. The chamber was so full that many had to attend via hologram. The trial of Admiral Threxnall was held before a new tribunal, the First Galactic Justice Court. The judges came from 7 neutral species, including the Zentari. The prosecutor was a Vorkan reformer who had lost family members in the Civil War. The defender was a human lawyer who argued that even murderers deserved fair representation. The trial lasted 2 weeks. The evidence was overwhelming. The video from Helios 7 station showed everything. Witnesses from a dozen species testified. Even some of Threxnall's own soldiers spoke against him, explaining how his actions had brought shame to their military. In the end, the judges reached a unanimous verdict. Guilty of murder. The sentence was life imprisonment in a neutral facility, where he would be treated humanely but never released. Threxnall showed no emotion when the sentence was read. But as they led him away, he looked back at Admiral Daehyun one final time. Was one life worth all this? He asked. Every life is worth all this, Daehyun replied. The aftermath of the war reshaped the galaxy. The Vorkan Empire fractured into 17 independent systems, each choosing its own government. Most became democracies. Some remained military-led but reformed their laws. All of them signed treaties promising to respect the rights of other species. The humans led the reconstruction effort. Engineer Minji designed new infrastructure for war-damaged worlds. Dr. Hana trained medical teams from 20 species to work together. Commander Hyun helped build defense forces for newly independent worlds so they could protect themselves. The Allied Systems Coalition became a permanent organization. 23 species signed the founding charter, pledging to defend each other and uphold justice. The charter had one main principle written in its first line. All species are equal. All lives have value. No being deserves to die simply because their people are weak. Jiho, who had been Captain Daehyun's engineer and friend since the beginning, became Ambassador Jiho. His first task was helping draft the Galactic Convention on Sapient Rights, a comprehensive legal framework that guaranteed protection to all intelligent species. Over 100 worlds signed it in the first year. The convention established rules for conflict between species, requirements for fair trials, and protections for conquered peoples. It also created the Galactic Justice Court as a permanent institution. For the first time in history, the galaxy had laws that applied to everyone equally. 5 years after Yuna's death, Admiral Daehyun retired from military service. He was only 40 years old, but he had done what he set out to do. He visited Earth for the first time since the war began, and went to Unity Plaza in Seoul, where his sister's memorial stood. The plaza was beautiful, filled with gardens and fountains. At the center was a statue of Yuna, standing with her hand extended in a gesture of peace. Around the statue were walls covered with names. Not just Yuna's name, but the names of every person who had died in the war, from every species: human, Vorkan, Raxi, Zentari. All of them remembered equally. Thousands of people visited the memorial every day. Humans and aliens walked together, reading the names, leaving flowers and tributes. Children played in the gardens, representing a future where Yuna's death meant something. Daehyun placed a photo at the base of the statue. It showed Yuna smiling at her communication console on the new dawn, back when things were simple. He touched the statue's hand gently. You wanted to build bridges between species, he said quietly. I had to fight a war first, but we're building them now. Better ones. Stronger ones. Because of you, an old Vorkan approached slowly. He wore simple civilian clothes and walked with a cane. Daehyun recognized him as Commander Kelvar, the Vorkan officer who had helped end the war. Admiral Daehyun, Kelvar said respectfully. May I join you? Of course. And I'm not an admiral anymore. Just Daehyun. Kelvar looked at the statue. I never met your sister. But because of her, my species learned humility. We learned that power without justice is tyranny. We learned that all lives matter, not just our own. That's a hard lesson to learn, Daehyun said. It was. Many of my people died learning it. But now we're better for it. Kelvar paused. I'm sorry we didn't learn it sooner. I'm sorry for what Admiral Threxnall did. He made his choice. But you made yours too. You chose justice over loyalty to your empire. That took courage. They stood together in silence for a while, a human and a Vorkan at a memorial for a murdered woman, surrounded by people of a dozen different species. On the other side of the galaxy, President Salmon prepared to retire. She had led Earth through the most difficult period in its history and guided humanity to become a leader in galactic affairs. She gave her final speech from the same office in Seoul where she had first decided to go to war. "We did not want this war," she said to the billions watching across Earth and beyond. "We wanted peace. We wanted to explore the stars and learn from other species. But when justice was denied to one of our own, we had to act. Not because we are violent, but because we value life. Every single life." She paused and looked directly at the camera. "The galaxy has changed. We helped change it, but we must never forget why. Unipark died because someone thought her life didn't matter. We proved them wrong. Now we must build a future where nobody ever has to prove that again." The Galactic Council elected its first human chairperson the following year. Ambassador Nari, who had stood before the council and demanded justice when everyone else wanted peace, now led the galaxy's highest diplomatic body. She was young for the position, but she had earned respect through her strength and wisdom. On her first day, she addressed the assembled representatives. "I'm honored to serve, but I don't want us to forget how we got here. 5 years ago, this council did nothing when a human was murdered. We had to fight a war to get justice. That should never happen again." She gestured to a new sculpture they had placed in the council chamber. It was a copy of Yuna's statue from Earth, scaled down but identical. "This will remind us why we created new laws, why we built the justice system, why we declared that all species are equal. Because one woman tried to stop bullying and was killed for it, and because her people refused to accept that. The galaxy was different now. Humans held positions in governments across hundreds of worlds. They taught at universities, worked in hospitals, built ships in orbital yards, and served in the Allied Defense Force. They were no longer the new species, the primitive ones, the lesser beings. But they never forgot where they came from. Every human ship, military or civilian, carried the same inscription somewhere on its hull. "In memory of Unipark, who showed us the price of justice." Captain Jiho, who had been there at the beginning, now captained a joint human-Vorkan exploration vessel. His crew was half human, half Vorkan, working together to map unknown regions of space. It would have been impossible 5 years ago. Now it was normal. He often thought about Yuna, his captain's sister, who had spoken politely in perfect Vorkan to try to stop a conflict. She would have loved to see humans and Vorkans working together. She would have been proud. One day, his ship discovered a new habitable world. It was beautiful, with blue oceans and green continents. When they filed the report, Jiho suggested a name. "Let's call it New Hope," he said. "Because that's what this is. A new beginning. A fresh start." The council approved the name. Within a year, colonists from 5 different species, including humans and Vorkans, began building a settlement there.